Noam Chomsky's Language and Mind explores the deep connection between linguistics, cognitive science, and philosophy, positioning language as a core aspect of human cognition. He challenges conventional views of language learning, particularly those rooted in behaviorism, by asserting that language is not merely a learned behavior, but an innate capacity within the human mind. Central to his theory is the concept of generative grammar, which suggests that all human languages share a common structural foundation, and that our ability to produce and understand language stems from an internal biologically based system. This theory highlights the presence of a universal grammar, a set of rules that all humans are born with, enabling them to generate an infinite variety of sentences. A key argument Chomsky makes is what he calls the poverty of the stimulus, the idea that the linguistic input available to children is insufficient to account for the complex language skills they develop. This suggests that children must possess an inherent mental framework for language, reinforcing his belief in an innate language faculty. Chomsky's position significantly contrasts with behaviorist theories, which argue that language is learned through imitation and reinforcement. He argues that language acquisition cannot be explained by external stimuli alone, as the speed and complexity with which children learn language far surpass what would be possible through such mechanisms. Chomsky also delves into the broader implications of language for understanding the human mind. For him, language is not just a tool for communication, but a window into our cognitive capacities. The ability to generate an endless number of sentences from a limited set of rules reflects the underlying structure of the mind, which is equipped with specialized modules for different cognitive tasks. He distinguishes between linguistic competence, the internal knowledge of language rules, and linguistic performance, the actual use of language in real-world situations. While performance can be influenced by external factors such as memory and attention, competence represents the pure linguistic capacity of the mind. One of the most significant contributions Chomsky makes in Language and Mind is his critique of behaviorism, particularly through his famous review of B.F. Skinner's verbal behavior. In this critique, Chomsky argues that language cannot be reduced to conditioned responses. He points out that language is far more complex and abstract, involving deep cognitive structures that behaviorist models fail to account for. This leads to his nativist theory, which asserts that humans are born with a specific neurological capacity for language. According to this view, language acquisition is a natural part of human development, driven by the brain's inherent structures, rather than being solely a result of environmental interaction. Chomsky also introduces the concept of transformational grammar, a key component of his generative grammar theory. This concept explains how deep structures, the underlying grammatical constructions in the mind, can be transformed into surface structures, the sentences we actually speak. Transformational grammar allows us to understand how complex sentences are formed from simpler ones, highlighting the flexibility and creativity of human language. He uses the example of sentences like, "John is easy to please," and "John is eager to please," to show how similar surface structures can mask very different deep structures. The creative aspect of language is a central theme in Chomsky's work. He emphasizes that human language is unique in its ability to generate new and novel expressions, a feature that sets it apart from the communication systems of other animals. This generative capacity, according to Chomsky, reflects a broader human creativity and freedom, underscoring language as a manifestation of free will and innovation. The ability to produce and understand sentences we have never encountered before is a key characteristic of human linguistic ability and reveals the complexity of the mental processes involved. Chomsky's exploration of language also has important implications for cognitive science and philosophy. He aligns himself with the rationalist tradition, drawing on figures like Descartes to argue that certain aspects of human cognition, such as language, are innate. This contrasts with empiricist views that focus on learning and experience as the primary sources of knowledge. Chomsky's theories also touch on the mind-body problem, raising questions about whether mental processes, like language, can be fully explained by physical mechanisms in the brain. While he acknowledges the importance of the brain in language processing, he argues that language and cognition cannot be reduced to neural activity alone, pointing to the need for a more comprehensive understanding of human thought. In his theory of the language acquisition device, LAD, Chomsky proposes a hypothetical mechanism in the brain that enables children to rapidly learn any language to which they are exposed. The LAD is an innate cognitive structure that reflects the universal grammar shared by all humans. This device allows children to quickly grasp the rules of their native language, even with limited input, further supporting the idea that language is a biologically based feature of the human mind. He also introduces the critical period hypothesis, suggesting that there is a specific window of time during early childhood when language acquisition occurs most naturally and effectively. After this period, learning a new language becomes significantly more challenging. Although Chomsky's work in language and mind primarily focuses on the cognitive and structural aspects of language, he briefly addresses the evolutionary origins of language. He speculates that language is a relatively recent development in human evolution, potentially arising from a single genetic mutation that gave rise to the universal grammar. However, he does not provide extensive detail on this topic, as his main focus remains on the cognitive processes underlying language. Chomsky's ideas have had a profound impact on linguistics and cognitive science, revolutionizing the study of language by shifting the focus from behaviorist models to a cognitive and biological framework. His concept of universal grammar has been foundational in fields such as psycholinguistics, neurolinguistics, and artificial intelligence. However, his work has also faced criticism, particularly from linguists who argue that language cannot be fully understood without considering its social and cultural dimensions. These critics maintain that language is not solely a mental phenomenon, but is shaped by interaction, context, and communication.